Before we even start, press that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to stick around. This is Who Said What, where my sister Nira and I dive into life, culture, and the things that people think but don't say out loud. She overshares, I think before I speak, most of the time. We've lived all over. Egypt, the US, Dubai, Europe, so we've seen the best and worst of everything. Relationships, careers, family chaos, and unspoken rules that make absolutely no sense. No fluff here, no filters, just real talk, occasional wisdom, and a lot of, did we really just say that moments? Now let's get into it. So we're rolling, right?
There's usually just one take, by the way.
There's usually one take, yeah, there's no more than
There's not a second
It's
take.
true. Hi, everyone. We're back with another episode of Who Said What? I'm Hiba.
And I'm Nira.
And today we have someone who has been shaping the modern Egyptian cinema industry for probably since he was a teenager, I would think.
Not that. I mean, unless you consider teenager 27, 28.
Well, no, but because you were in, well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, okay.
So anyways, he is the founder of Film Clinic. He's a writer, producer, director, and here he's with us, Mohamed Hefzy. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with my friends. Two sisters.
And the reason
I've known for a long time.
I know, and the reason why, but the reason why I say that you've been doing it since a teenager, because I remember one of the first things in Egypt for me to go see was a play in, I think, 1990 in CAC, and were you Danny Zuko in Greece? Were you playing the lead role?
No, I wasn't in Greece. I remember a bunch of things. Well,
No, it was Greece for sure.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember there was, we had one Shakespeare production. I think it was Taming of the Shrew.
I never went to that one.
Was it Little Shop of Horrors? Little Shop of Horrors. That was CAC.
Because I wasn't at CAC at the time. Shireen was at CAC. My older sister, no, I was at the French school.
French school, yes.
And then so I came and we went to this one play that you were in. I think it was Greece. Maybe it wasn't then. What could it have been?
I mean, it was such a 1990. Huh?
1990.
I was 15.
Yeah.
Yes, I was 15. That was.
It was insane.
Yeah. So I guess now everybody knows I'm 50.
Yeah. How does it feel turning 50? You turned 50 this year, oh?
Yeah, last month. Yeah, a month and a half ago. 2
How do you
months
feel?
Oh my God.
Do you feel
2 months
different?
ago. Do I feel different? I don't feel any different.
You don't
I feel
look
any
it at
different,
all,
no.
by the way.
I honestly, I mean, that doesn't mean I feel good though. I mean, it just means I don't feel good. But,
You feel 50?
No, I don't.
Yeah, neither do I. We were just talking about this. I think our Gen X generation
Yeah.
feels like we matured fast, but then we stayed immature for a very long time and we're still immature. It's weird. It's a weird feeling. I don't know how to explain it.
I honestly, no, I don't feel 50. I feel in my, like I feel 44.
That's a good number.
Yes.
I like it. It's an even number.
44.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to ease into this. I want to ask you something. Are you somebody, because I mean, you're behind the scenes and you make movies. Are you somebody that is a movie buff? Or are you like privately somebody who doesn't like movies?
I'm a big movie buff.
Are you?
Yeah, but I mean, it became something that I do. Yeah, I miss just watching a movie for the enjoyment of watching a movie, rather than watching it because it's part of what I have to do. So for me, most of the films I watch, it's either work related, it's either because I'm on a jury in a festival, it's either because I'm judging films for the Academy, for the Oscars, or I'm judging films in a festival.
Wait, backtrack here.
Yeah.
So no, time out.
Yeah.
Were you on the jury in the Cannes Festival one year?
No, I was on the
Oscars.
jury in Venice and Sundance and London.
Okay, I remember.
Cairo and a lot of festivals. But no, the Oscars. I'm a voting member, so that means that I'm supposed to watch as many films as I can, and there's a minimum list of required films depending on the category I'm voting in.
Okay.
And they just changed the rules so that this year I can't vote in any category in which I haven't seen all the nominees. So even if it's an acting category, even if it's an editing or cinematography, I have to watch all the films in that category that are nominated before and plus I vote in the international film category, which means I have a minimum list of 15 films required viewing. but I watch a lot more. So I end up watching about maybe 50 films a year, just, as part of my Oscar voting. And these films are probably films, a lot of them I've seen throughout the year. They're probably films I've seen in theaters or in festivals. But then the ones I don't see until the voting season begins, then I have this great, all Oscar members have this platform. It's like their own Netflix, It's like all the films that are submitted that are put up on the platform, and it's only open for Oscar members so that we can just catch up on all the films we're supposed to see. And that's how they know that we've seen the films. So that they actually check. Yeah. And if you've seen them already, we don't need to watch them on the platform, but we need to fill out a form to say when and where we've seen the film, just to give them the assurance that the film has been seen.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of movies.
It's a lot of work. It's
a lot of
more
hours.
than 100 hours of watching films. But I enjoy it, and it's intensive. I do it maybe over 2-3 months, but maybe half of those films I would have already seen in Cannes and Venice and theaters and stuff like that. Yeah.
So did you go to the Cannes Film Festival?
I just got back 3-4 days ago, yes. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't get to watch a lot of films, unfortunately.
Tell us, what is the glamorous and not so glamorous parts of it? Who is also an actor that you see that's like, oh my God, this person's so good looking in real life?
To be honest, I don't do the glamour side of the festival so much, because I try to avoid going to red carpet screenings. So I end up giving all my tickets away for the red carpet tickets.
Okay, wow.
Because I want to go in the morning, either early morning, like at 9, before I start my meetings, or 8:30. Or if I had a late night, then I'll just go in the evening. But it's really hard to watch film in Cannes, watch films in Cannes, because you have meetings all day. So either you watch films at night, and if it's a competition film, that means you have to wear a tux and it's a black tie and all of that. So I try to avoid that as much as possible.
You don't like that, huh?
Sorry?
You don't like to do that?
No. So what I do is I try to stay 2 or 3 days after the market ends, because of the festival. There's a festival, right? So people go to watch films and stuff like that. Mainly industry professionals, the cinephiles. And then you have a market, which is parallel to the festival. So this is where co-production meetings happen. This is where movies are bought and sold. So these meetings are the main reason why I go. So that happens mainly the first 5-6 days. And then after that, it's, most of the market people leave, and then it's usually, so the professional or the industry part is finished, and then, maybe I stay for 2-3 days just to catch up in movies, then to watch more films and stuff like that.
What did you watch in Cannes that was really good? It stood out.
So I did watch the one the Palme d'Or, and I have to say I had hardly slept the night before, so I was like struggling to stay awake during the film.
What was it? What's it
called?
It
was the Jafar Panahi film. It was called It Was Just an Accident, or that's the translated name, I guess. And it ended up winning the Palme d'Or, and I really need to watch it again, because I just didn't give it a fair viewing. I think I need to watch it again. But I've seen some of the Arab films, like the Salah's film, the one that was about Egypt, Eagles of the Republic. And that's a film that is obviously very controversial for Egypt, especially for the regime here, which, because it's...
I don't know what it's about. Tell us, what is it?
It's about basically an actor, a very famous actor, Egyptian actor, who his movies are always like the highest grossing films, and then one day he gets a call where he has to act as the president in a biopic of, the president, and then how he came to power. And just like, when they did the series Al-Ikhtiyar, they Yasser Galal to play Sisi, so it's exactly the same, inspired by the same thing, and so it's almost looking at it. It's fictionalized, obviously, but it's very close to home, and I obviously there's no way it will ever screen in the Arab world, or especially Egypt.
That's a question, actually. Do you find that you're very limited in terms of like what you can do and what you can air? Are you always, or can you be really open about what you do and say? And
I can
movies?
No, I mean it's we live with censorship, and it's a fact that we have to
What kind of censorship? Political and sexual, obviously.
Sexual, like swear words, blasphemy, so like language and
Religion.
nudity, religion. Sometimes it's political, of course. I mean,
What about the movie Asma?
They haven't eased up on censorship. Wait, I'm just trying to. They haven't eased up on censorship though over the years.
I mean, not really. No, to be honest, no. I think it's a lot of people were complaining about that in the past years. And there's a new head now, and somebody who took over as the head of censorship, who is quite. Yeah, and he's a writer originally, so a screenwriter, a very famous screenwriter. So I think people have a lot of hope that this will ease things a little bit. But the censor, the head of the censorship is playing a political role. Sometimes it's not just to him. It's up to her. It's up to sometimes there are limits that even they cannot exceed. And so it's So no, it's not. I mean, was it better?
I'm sure it limits you in terms of
was it better 20 years ago? Probably. Yeah, in terms of censorship. Probably.
It was better?
Yeah. Probably, yes. Yeah.
Oh, really?
In all honesty, yes. Yeah.
Wow.
But so that limits you in terms of creativity, obviously, right? Don't you feel?
Of course, but then again, if you look at the world, I mean, how free is America right now with all these college students that are being expelled just for voicing their opinion? So I mean, it's a world that is becoming more and more authoritarian and
less freedom of
I
speech.
think free speech is under threat all over the world. So I mean, we're not necessarily much worse than other places. That's why I keep telling myself that we are probably one of the countries where at least we have a cinema industry. I mean, there are other countries that have far worse censorship around our neighbors, and there are some which you would expect have a really strict censorship and are actually opening up a lot more, like Saudi Arabia, and they're becoming more and more. I mean, I don't want to say completely free, but at least the ceiling is being raised gradually and steadily. So I think it's just the nature of the world today, and the region. We have to be creative in how we express ourselves, and sometimes subtle. So yeah, and you can do a lot. You can still say a lot. I mean, it just depends how you say it.
Yeah, Nira wanted to go ahead.
The movie Asma, yes. Yeah. Did you get? Because I remember when it came out, it was like, oh my God, it's about AIDS and about this woman contracting AIDS from her husband that was in jail. Did that get a lot of
backlash?
Backlash, negative?
No, not really. No, I mean, I've had films that have had much more backlash in the past 3-4 years, because it's more a social issue. And social issues are usually okay to talk about them. It's more when you get to things like, religion and, so for example, I had a film called Sheikh Jackson, same director as Asma. There was a scene in the film when, he's leading prayer, and suddenly he looks up and there's Michael Jackson, and then he starts dancing in the mosque to one of his songs. And that was a very controversial scene. And that scene got Amr Salama, the writer and director, to have to go and stand in front of the deputy general or the attorney general, because some lawyer accused him of blasphemy, and basically, so he was facing legal, legal situation based on.
So what happened to him? Did they get off?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't go to trial, it didn't go to court, but it was a serious concern. More recently with films like Krish, Feathers, which won in Cannes 4 years ago, and then went to Guna, and celebrities didn't like it, and then it got a backlash.
Why didn't they like the one that
Mona Zaki's film?
Why did they like it in Cannes?
Oh, why did they like it in Cannes? Why did it win? No, it won in Cannes.
It won. Okay.
Yeah, it won the Critics' Week. Yeah.
Okay.
I've had lots of films that clash, very controversial. So I'm very familiar with films that cause controversy.
So your neck is on the line every time you do a movie that you think could be like pushing the envelope.
But I've realized that I can't do that anymore. It's not. And if I want to continue working and feeling secure and safe, I can't take these kinds of risks anymore. So
maybe you should go do rom-coms.
I am.
Are you?
Yeah.
You are?
Like what?
I'm still making films that I feel make people think a little bit, but just not as, I'm not going into areas that, let's say the last 3 films that I've done, that I've released theatrically that were, out of let's say 5 were pretty successful, which is Voy 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 about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and Flight 404, Monazaki as well, Rambo, Finding Haven for Mr. Rambo. Like all these films were intellectually, interesting and stimulating and challenging, and at the same time, they were also successful commercially here and in most cases in Arab countries as well. So you can still make films that make people think and question without necessarily getting yourself into trouble. It's just you have to be more intelligent about it. Voy 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 was about illegal immigration and football players pretending to be blind so that they can get out of Egypt. And Flight 404 was about a former prostitute who is trying to go on a pilgrimage and is facing all kinds of obstacles. So, these are films that also touch on social taboos and things that are not necessarily safe, but they're done in a way that, Flight 404 was banned for a year and a half before, it was given clearance to. I had to reshoot scenes in order to have the film passed. So,
now, how about like the actor on the that is doing that? Do you get anything like comments like, oh, is it difficult for them? Do they have like reservations about doing these kind of roles?
Well, now some actors they understand the status quo and they don't want to get themselves into an area where they'll be, they would work less, because
or be stigmatized.
Yes, because now also the major production companies in Egypt and the major TV channels are government owned, so they're also a lot of actors are also careful not to cross the line. Yeah.
Okay, so they don't but people like I think like Mona Zaki or Hind Sabri is not an issue for them because they're just so big and it's.
No, Mona had a lot of problems because of that film we did together. And a lot of backlash, which was a remake of an Italian film called Perfect Strangers.
Oh my God! Oh my God! I love that. I love that.
That movie was good.
Yeah. I saw it twice.
It was brilliant.
On Netflix?
No, I went to see it in the movie theaters here.
Oh, which one are you talking about? The not Perfect Strangers, then
Perfect Strangers.
No, that didn't come out until that was a Netflix original. Like an Netflix one.
The Italian
one with the
that was. Oh, you went to see the Italian movie?
I saw the Italian.
We saw the Italian.
That came out in Zamalek Cinema.
Yeah, the Zamalek Cinema during the film week, I think. And I looked at
film festival.
Film festival, and I told my mom and him, I'm like, you guys have got to see this movie. The house is awesome. Besides the fact that the story I thought was just
I'd love to recreate that in my own home.
Brilliant.
People here, put your phones down. We'll all look. Anytime someone gets a message, turn that over.
It was such a fantastic, and the ending was great. I just loved it.
It's a good film. And did you see the Arabic remake?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, so it's on Netflix.
It's on Netflix. I'll watch it.
It's very good.
What's it called?
Ashab al-Az.
I have to.
I'll watch it.
Yeah, huge background.
Oh wow!
Oh yeah, in Egypt, not and it wasn't really a purely Egyptian. It was mostly a Lebanese film. Yeah, there's just one couple that was not Lebanese, Mona Zaki and Iyad Nassar, and they were supposed to be Egyptian, and we got a backlash in Egypt.
I think it's because we're very emotional.
Why? Why would that move?
كان في حاجه مش منطقيه شويه اللي هو
ايوه صح
لا ناس بتتعامل ان منى زكي از
بنت الجيران بنت الجيران
ايوه لا no she's an actress, this is her job.
Why did it get backlash though?
There was a scene.
I have to watch it.
Too much.
There was a scene in the original Italian movie in which the actress, she's having a fight with her husband, an argument or something, and before she leaves, she takes off her underwear, she puts it in her bag. You don't really see anything. It's just that she does that.
Just the concept.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. I don't remember that movie very well. It's been a while now.
Yeah. It was insane. It was insane. It was crazy.
Wow. I gotta watch it. I'll watch it actually.
You must feel sometimes you're like maybe don't you think sometimes like shouldn't we be past this kind of thing at this point? But no, you never are surprised,
no,
are you?
unfortunately, we're still living in an age where people don't differentiate between the actor and the role.
Yes. Well, here, maybe, I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, here especially, yes. Yeah. That's... so I guess, I'm sure that a lot of people now know that this is an issue and that...
But I remember one of my favorite movies never played here, and then it was because it's about the devil and God and stuff like that. And it's constant. To me, it's one of the best movies ever. I love that movie, and I'm like, why it never got released here in Egypt? Because you are basically saying God's, they're playing this game, and so I got why it was never anything that's too religious or really depicts Satan and God in certain ways. They won't release it here. It's interesting. I think we're past that.
Yeah, no. It's like these films, even foreign films that touch upon themes like that, and when it's very direct and obvious, it's and even films with like homosexuality now are very difficult to release in Egypt.
Yeah. I think there's a lot. There was an animated movie, right? That had this. Wasn't there an anime, like a children's movie, a Disney movie that came out with one of the girls was transsexual or something like that? Or
I remember that. I just can't remember what it was.
There's more than one Disney movie that faced issues with censorship because of.
Toy Story. Buzz Lightyear is gay.
Yeah.
Now?
Really? Yeah, now he's gay.
2025.
After 5 movies, he's gay.
But in 1980s, he wasn't gay, or 1990s.
In the 90s, he wasn't. Now he is.
He's lived through life.
Well, now that we have Trump back in office,
the
next Buzz Lightyear won't be straight again.
I've seen the lights switching sides. It's just so weird. It's interesting. I find that all of it is so.
Yeah. Well, movies have such a huge impact on people now. Like nobody reads anymore. Everybody watches Netflix and movies and. So I guess, everybody's so concerned about it.
And I also, to be honest, I also feel like when you are, I understand when you don't want to have kids grow up with prejudice against any ethnic minority or whether it's a minority that is, homosexual minority, whether ethnic or Muslim or whatever, or black. But it just felt at some point like it's almost... it just felt too much at some point with like a bunch of films coming out, one after the other where you have like gay characters and gay kisses and, so it's almost like imposing it rather than...
Yeah, I agree with that in a way. I do.
I was telling my friends that because we went to colleges we went to were all women. So in the 90s, I never had an issue with it. But now I feel like it's being forced down my throat. And I'm just like, I'm starting to have a bit of an issue with it. Like I have, but... Why does there have to be a token gay guy? Why does there have to be a token black guy? Now there's a token this guy. There's all these token players that have to play. And I'm not being racist when I say that I don't want to watch Black Annie. Like, I'm sorry. I'm not being racist when I say that. But why are you remaking a movie that was just really, really good? Why? Because all the actors were white? Who cares? Really, who cares? It was such a brilliant movie at the time. I'm like, so...
I think, like, we were talking about this, like, a lot of these movies that they make remakes of now, it's, like, so annoying. I mean, the remakes are not good like the originals. It's like, let's just leave it. It was good before. Like Point Break, we were talking about. What else? There's so many of these movies that do remakes.
There's a new one that just came out.
Because they're iconic then. It's like if they do Dirty Dancing, I'll kill myself.
They did do...
They do a remake of Dirty Dancing. I'll officially kill myself.
But they did do... 2 more.
No, they did sequels of it, but they didn't do...
Well, just as bad, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just as bad, in my opinion.
Like that.
I have a feeling that, original ideas are going to struggle to make a comeback, but at the same time, a lot of superhero movies are bombing in the box office like in the past, say, 3-4 years. Marvel is no longer, guaranteed success every time they release a film. So... maybe the audiences are getting a little bit tired of, milking IPs. That's what I call it, when you take an IP and you milk it many, many times. And
I know. We don't do sequels here, do we?
We're starting to, and I think it's healthy because it's also,
sometimes you want to know what happens after the happily ever after because it's not happily ever after. So we want to know what the fuck happens after that.
Okay, what was the movie that you watched when you were younger that or movies that made you say, I want to get in this industry? Like there must have been like those movies that are just like...
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's, I have influences from my teenage years. I used to love, director like Stanley Kubrick for me was a big hero growing up, and influenced me in a lot of ways. It made me fall in love with cinema in a way. European cinema, I was very influenced by French and Italian cinema growing up as well.
So not necessarily Hollywood blockbusters. So you like the indie films and
yeah. I mean, even American directors like Robert Altman, who are not like household names, they're not super famous, but it really influenced my writing and my sensibility for cinema, because they have a very European independent sensibility. And independent cinema in the US really, I think, it's still thriving, and you look at some of the best films out today, and still think American independent cinema is really doing very well. Yeah.
I'm curious, how did you start though? Did you start as writing, or did you just, when did you get started? It was you were in your 20s?
As a writer in my early 20s, yes.
So did you know that that's what you wanted to do the whole time, or you just kind of said, let me give this a shot?
It was an accident. I knew, during my university days, I started writing a script just for fun, and I kind of like hoped one day I'd make it as directed even, and then just obviously I didn't make it, but it got me my first writing job, which is my first professional writing job. Yeah. That script I wrote in college in London that got read by someone here, and then we ended up making a film that's not related to it, but because of that film, I was invited to collaborate on what ended up being a Silem Taben, which was my first film.
Okay, yeah, that was in the early 2000s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wow. I remember that.
So now when you look back at your early works, do you say, oh my God, do you cringe at any of your early works and say like, oh my God, I wish I would have done it better then? Or no, you just take it for what it is?
Some of my late works too, but
But so you do, are you critical of yourself?
Yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be, no? Aren't you?
Well,
I'm super critical of myself. Everybody's like, oh, you're too critical. I'm like, but I want it to be the best. Like, so it's like, I am very critical.
Yeah.
I'm not critical of my desserts. I think they're awesome.
You're not?
You're the best.
Sometimes, no. I always panic when something goes out and it doesn't look the way I want it to look.
Sure.
I'm like, how did it taste? And my mom and my sister are like, why are you worried? I'm just like, I'm worried because it didn't look the way I wanted it to look. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm worried. But besides that.
No, it's really important, I think, to be, not to. I mean, confidence is good, but complacency is really dangerous, especially in our industry and our field. I've seen so many writers, directors, even actors, who become complacent and overconfident.
Yeah. Actors, because the acting pool here is quite small, right? For people, like there aren't that many great actors.
Honest, I think the cultivated talent pool. I think there's an enormous talent pool that is not cultivated, but the cultivated talent pool is the seasoned talent pool is really very limited.
So what do you do?
Whether it's writers, directors, cinematographers, production designers, editors, like really it's like the whole industry like only wants to work with like 10 people in each department. And we're trying to make 100 series and films in 1 year. So how do we do that? So we end up having to grow the talent pool or to work with second and third rank talents, and because honestly, because sometimes for financial reasons, because they can't afford the demand is so high on the top tier talents in every department, so they're expensive for most productions. So, but we need to grow the talent pool. It's and when I say talent, it's not just actors and writers and directors. I'm talking about even crew.
Yeah, I was just
camera people, focus pullers.
How many people generally do you have on set? Like to do a movie, how many people do you guys employ? I never know these things.
Movies, it can be up to 180, 200. Yeah, it could be that big.
Okay, so all these people kind of need to have some kind of work ethics and like know what they're doing, basically.
A job to do, yeah. It's not counting extras, yeah. That's just crew. it's become too big in terms of film crews.
It's limited, so it must be
varies
expensive.
from like 120 to 180 on most film sets. Then you have some days where you have like, a lot of extras and like big outdoor scenes, etc. So then you could end up with like more than 200 people plus extras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can imagine because, and does that lend to the success of a film? Like if you have like the good people working for you, or
Yes, but not in terms of size, but in terms of
reach, like
in terms of the quality, the caliber of people, HODs, heads of departments.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it really comes down to story. More than anything. If you have a good story that's well told, that's more than anything. Of course, you need good technicians, but the essence is just having a good story that is well told, and not just good story, but how you tell the story. For me, that's why when I get a lot of submissions and proposals for scripts, and sometimes they're just like a 2-page synopsis or a 5-page treatment, and I always say I don't really care about the idea so much. It's not. It's almost like what you have to say is less important than how you say it.
So you prefer full script to read than just the idea?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Did you get anything from like anybody that like kind of really surprised you? Like, oh, this is such a good script, and
rarely.
Rarely, huh?
And honestly, more recently, they haven't been coming from Egypt. The really strong scripts that I've been reading are there's. Okay, let's say we open submissions on our website. We have a submissions email people can submit. So we get maybe 100 to 150 submissions a year, which is not that much. I imagine abroad some companies get
probably thousands.
Yeah, thousands. But anyway, so we try to read through most of them, and I think the quality is not there. Maybe there will be 1 or 2 scripts that we get that we actually like out of those 100, 150.
That's it.
But more often than not, it's not the scripts, but it's the writers behind them that we actually look for. So we may pass on a script, but we may consider the writer for another project because the writer has some talent, has some skill. So like I said, it's just we have a lot of great ideas, we have a lot of great talent, but they're just not cultivated. They're not, they lack the craft, and I think that the craft is really, I would say, as important as talent when it comes to making films, or I think in a lot of not just film, but a lot of different arts. It's.
Is the education not there yet here, like with regards to?
For sure. There's the Cinema Institute, which has been, which is very old. The people that teach there are not up to date. They're they're older school of filmmaking, and there's not a lot of private. There's a lot of people doing business by pretending to be. Film academies and training in film, etc. But there's actually like legitimate, good quality film education in Egypt is not as available, and it's not as accessible for most people. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the future, maybe it's AI, right? Maybe that's what people have to learn.
Are they doing movies with AI? Like, I think
there's some studios now that I'm hearing about, people that I'm meeting that are trying to set up AI studios and trying to produce like Hollywood studio level movies for under $500,000, which is maybe
that's crazy.
It's less than 1% of the average cost of a Hollywood movie these days.
Wow. How much does an Egyptian movie cost?
Average now, it's about 2 million, I think.
2 million. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm involved in films right now that range from like
$2 million pounds or dollars?
Dollars.
Okay,
from 600,000-700,000 all the way to like 7.
Okay.
Yeah. But 7 is really the high end. Yeah.
And where'd you get your funding from? Is it not you personally, or just like you have investors?
Yes, I mean investors, funds, private money, or pre-sales from our different deals with streamers and stuff like that.
I'm sure you have sponsors as well for the product placement.
Sometimes we but not as often as we'd like.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now when I see movies, I see the product placement every single time I watch a movie. I'm like, oh, great ad for Coca-Cola. You know what I'm saying? I'm watching, I'm like, there goes an ad for Dell.
Yeah.
Like whenever you see laptops and you see Dell, that they've paid for that.
Of course.
Here it's not.
Yeah. Cinema Taban, yeah, there's several films where I wasn't the producer of Cinema Taban, but that was really the film that really almost began this whole concept here. It was overused, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so weird.
So tell us, because we were thinking about this, Nir and I were just talking about this, because you were raised more like English and American school and things like that, was it difficult for you to make the shift into Arabic?
Yes. Of course, yes.
Is it still difficult for you, or now is it just as
now
normal?
it's easier. But when I wrote Cinema Taban, I wrote the film in like a mix between English and Arabic. So it was a bit embarrassing because then some people would ask me, I would read it, and and they're like, why is before, like when we're offering to actors, and they're like, why is it like this? We don't,
فكر نفسك مين? So again, right?
I just have to explain that. My Arabic is not good enough to write, the classical Arabic. It was only the dialogue that I wrote in Arabic, and everything else was in English.
So how'd you get better? Just with practice?
Yeah.
And so now do you write scripts? If you do any writing, is it in Arabic?
If I write scripts, yes. But honestly, language is really not such an important thing. You can write a script in English and adapt it to Arabic. I've done it many times or I've read many films that were meant to be in Arabic and English, and then they get adapted.
So it doesn't get lost in translation?
No, because cinema is not about the word. It's not about dialogue. That comes last.
Okay.
It's a visual storytelling. It's really you're telling images, and you can describe the images in any language, and then the dialogue is the last layer. There's a lot of layers before you think about dialogue. Like, what is the subtext of the scene? Which is more important than what is being said is what is not being said. How does that reflect character, and how does that, what is the conflict here at play, and what are the choices that characters make under pressure? Because that's what defines who a character is. So all of that is not really relevant to language. And you don't need fancy vocabulary when you write a script.
Okay.
It's not like writing a novel where you're using like elevated words and very descriptive. You don't have to over describe, and you don't have to describe a location in absolute detail.
I guess it describes itself, right?
Yeah, you're sitting in a living room. You can say maybe it's a cozy modern living room, and that's just two words. You don't have to describe the shelves and the lighting, and so you leave that to the director. You leave that to the production designer. You leave it to that they do their job and they add those layers. So I think writing is really it's really just figuring out the beats of the story and the arc of the characters, and what is the central conflict, and how it evolves throughout the story, and when it evolves, how does it affect the evolution of the characters, and I think all of that is something you do even before you start writing dialogue. You do that when you're basically breaking down the story. And
do you think of an actor in mind when you're writing something, or like?
I think of
the actor. Do you have the actor in mind when you're writing, or
at some point, yes, but maybe not at the beginning, but at some point, yes. It helps sometimes when you can imagine a look or certain type, but then again, you don't want to end up always writing to a specific actor, because then if that actor doesn't want to be in your film, then you have to think of someone else. And but I've written films, under contract with an actor already, lined up for the role. So, okay. It's happened that way before, but I don't write much anymore. So, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to create Film Clinic, is because I felt like I was becoming, a writer for hire for actors at some point. And I was not a script writer for very long. And it was from 1999 when I wrote my first film. It came out 2001. in 2007, I started producing. So it was only like those 7 years in which I was really writing. And then I was...
So now you just produce.
Now I just produce, and I don't write much. I don't have the time to write much anymore. I'd love to go back into it at some point.
Where do you get your inspiration from when you used to write? I mean, is it from real life or from...
My first film was from personal experience, and it was from themes that I was concerned with, growing up.
Such as?
Okay, I guess I have to get a little personal. So it was, my first film was called Letting Go, and it was maybe the title was a bit on the nose, but it was about a man who one day meets somebody that a relationship from 15 years ago, and it triggers in him the knowledge that he's come to realize that his biggest problem in life is that he's no longer able to feel anything. So it's actually about the tragedy of not being able to feel, and I think that was maybe very bleak at the time. But so the film was non-linear, and it was the story of that affair, that relationship, and at the same time, the linear part is, or the present time is, that one day when he meets that person again, and who he was then and who he is now, and that, so that was very personal at the time. Yeah. And when you imagine that I was like 20 when I wrote that, so yeah.
I think I know what you're talking about. No, anyways.
You know too much.
You guys know too much about each other.
Okay, so actually, since we're talking about personal now, we might as well get into that.
Hate to ask. So you're successful and you have, great career and all that stuff. Why are you single? I hate when people ask me that question. Are you single?
Yeah,
it's a good question.
I think so. Yeah, pretty single these days. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Why am I single? I don't know. Is it a bad thing? I mean, no.
No,
I don't think it is. I'm happy. I'm super happy.
Quite
Was there ever
I stopped thinking about these things. I'm not always single, but I've been single for
never single.
A couple of years now, more than
you're never
years.
Single.
3 years almost. And I keep asking myself, though, am I living my life the right way? Should I be doing something different? Should I, and the question of marriage and family is not one that I choose to keep on mind on a daily basis. So I just chose to put it aside.
Thank you.
And just focus more on myself and focus more. And maybe there are things that
totally
if I focus more on myself, I will realize that maybe I'm preparing myself more to be ready for when the right person comes.
Yeah. So you've never had a time when you've had that right person? Because for the record, Hefzy is almost never single, by the way. I don't think I've ever seen him.
He has been for the past 3 years. He just said he has been
not
for the past 3
married,
years.
but he's never, I don't think, most of the time I've seen him in a relationship. So he doesn't have commitment problems. All girls.
Depends how you define relationships.
Okay, well, no, I've seen you in long-term relationships.
No, I have. But
they've known each other forever. Let's just...
Yeah, no, I have. Yeah, it's just
long.
been like more than 3 years since I have been in one of those long-term relationships.
So at any point in time, you're like, shit, like you think like now, like, oh, that one is the one who got away.
No.
No, I mean...
Don't think so.
Or maybe I'm the one who got away. Maybe I should.
I'm the stud who got away every single time.
It's the most annoying question, and Nev always asks me, and I'm just like,
I love to ask Nir because, but Nir has always very interesting stories. We talk about like her Valentine's Day debacle, or like it's always like something.
But you were married at some point?
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
How do you enjoy being single?
I enjoy it actually.
I enjoy it thoroughly for her. Because I've never been single, really.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think as I've gotten older in the past few years, it's not that I don't think I'm missing out on anything, I think is what it is. And I'm not willing to settle either. And it's not about settling either. It's just like, there's such a headache.
There's the best meme, by the way, that I sent Nir.
Which one?
Married friends give the best advice. Never get married. That's the advice that every married person gives.
Yeah.
You know,
Never get married.
And I'm luckily for me, nobody asks that question anymore. My parents are pretty cool. They stay out of it, and they don't bother me about it at all. And it's just.
But I mean,
And the dating pool really sucks as you get older. By the way,
people here are they pry on stuff all the time.
Yeah.
They're very, very nosy about that. But I thought I had to be nosy with you. But also, you have your brother who had kids later on in life.
Yeah.
So does that inspire you? Or does it make you feel like Mira, for me, when she sees me with the kids, she's like, oh, thank God. I don't want to ever have kids.
Yeah, I mean, my brother had kids when he was about my age now. So I think I think that it's possible that I will have kids one day. Yeah, it's possible.
I mean, because
your younger brother got divorced, right?
I have two brothers. Both have kids.
Oh, yeah,
They're
that's
both
right.
married.
I'm talking about the older one because he had them older. So I just
Actually, my younger brother is now married as well.
Again? Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's married again.
He got married again?
Yeah.
We'll ask him about
There
that.
you go. Good for him. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so they both have kids. No, because I think a lot of people, I mean, I had my kids at 40 and everybody always says it's so much nicer to have kids when you're older because you're more patient, I was like, fucking hell, I can kill those kids. You're less patient, I find.
I swear.
I need to break that.
I haven't had the kids, and everybody's like, "Oh, Belek." I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I choose.
Or maybe because I had
categorically
twins,
not to have kids.
but twins are kind of
And it's a headache. And her kid, like I yell at her kids when they're running around because they drive me bonkers sometimes.
Yeah, I think people who some people just want to get married to have kids, which is fine. If you're both okay with that. For me, it would be more about finding balance and happiness and stability, rather than and kids will come after that. If it comes.
I agree. I think at my age now, it's like I'm looking for somebody, a companion.
Yeah, of course.
That wants to do the stuff, likes to do the stuff that I do, but won't give me a headache and I don't need your shit. Like we'll have shit. Mine is mine. Yours is yours. Somebody that you can have a good time with, enjoy yourself with, travel with, and stuff like that. But other than that,
I think the best thing would be the arrangement to be living separately, but come together at times. Because when you're, well, I'm talking about at my age, when you turn 50, when you're like closer to 50, because it's like, that's what keeps it alive. If you're in your 20s, it's fun.
That's bleak.
But when you're older,
I like where she's going.
but when you're older, you want to have the privacy and do certain things. You want to just sometimes, I mean, I don't know, at our age now, I feel like sometimes I just don't want to do anything for like 2-3 days in a row. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to socialize. I don't want to go out. I want to sleep early.
No, maybe like a long distance marriage. You live in different countries.
You live in Zamalek, he lives in Sheikh Zayed.
You do a destination.
I had a friend of mine that had that, by the way.
Yeah.
But the long distance, though, that can get a little bit difficult, because long distance, then let's say unless it's like you guys have been married for a very long time, but if at the beginning this person's abroad and you're here, it gets a little bit.
No. I mean, to be honest, long distance marriage is a little far fetched. But long distance relationships, they've been some of my most
good ones. I can imagine. Yes, I know.
And some of my most hurtful relationships.
Long distance. Yeah.
Now I've been in one for 5 years.
You've been in one for 5 years. Yeah, it's working well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I mean, surprisingly, it's about the characters.
But you live very, very far away, or like?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's hard.
We went from long distance to long.
That's what made it better. It went even further away from you. That's what made it better.
When you said long distance marriage, no, like I hope not.
No, with marriage, no. Especially at the beginning. With marriage at the beginning, no. You kind of need to be together, so that you kind of get sick of each other quickly. It's like quick.
She's like very, very.
Everything is going to change in the next 5-10 years anyway. So
you think so?
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a movie about that. Like,
be able to have sex from different continents or something. I don't know.
Oh my God, it's going to be like, what's it called? Yeah. What's the movie? Demolition Man.
Oh.
Right? Sylvester Stallone and Sandra Bullock. Don't you remember that part? They censored it here in Egypt when it came out, when you used to get the video VHS. But when you watch it, she puts on this thing and it's like you're having sex.
I remember that scene. Yeah.
And he flips out. It's like, what is this? Because he's still in the 90s.
Okay.
And this is 25 years later.
Yeah, that's
Oh, this is in the future. Okay.
Yes,
Well, it's not the future now. It's actually now.
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right? It's 2025, I think, or something like that.
Maybe,
when he,
but I
when he
mean,
wakes up in the
it's pretty
future.
close to- no, I think you never know. Honestly,
You never
It's-
know.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a couple of more questions. Okay. Is there a movie that you secretly like but you think is highly overrated?
That's an interesting question.
My God, how
I
can
mean, if I like a movie, I just say I don't like it. Even if it's
Even if it sucks.
even if people think it sucks and it's silly, and I like it, I'll just I won't be embarrassed to say.
Yeah?
So there's a lot of
What's a chick flick that you like that
overrated movies that like that won Oscars, and people consider them overrated even though they won Oscars. And there are very silly movies that I actually think are pretty good. Chick flicks that I like.
Yeah, tell me a chick flick or like a silly movie that you think is good.
I used to like, films like, what's it called? The one with Mike Myers, like the Mike Myers movies.
Oh,
Wayne
yeah.
World.
Oh my God. Austin Powers.
Yeah,
No,
like these were
Wayne's
silly
World.
movies that were fun. Or films like,
Oh my God, that's
or films
so
like Top
you,
Secret,
Hefzy.
and films like Revenge of the Nerds, and like these silly teen films.
Weird
that-
Science.
Yeah, or these were fun films. They were actually.
I love Mike
yeah.
Myers. To me, I loved Austin Powers. To me, that was like so hilarious. And I used to like actually Jim Carrey in the dumbest movies, like Dumb and Dumber and that.
Yeah.
That kind of slapstick comedy I love.
I liked Liar Liar. I didn't care. I didn't care too much
Yeah.
for Dumb and
Carrey
Dumber.
films were fun.
He was funny.
Even some Egyptian films recently that were just saw a film called Siku Siku like a month ago.
I heard of that.
And it's actually a really good film. It's light. It's funny. It's doesn't take itself too seriously, and good film, really good film. So you liked it? Yeah. Well,
I have to watch it. Okay.
I mean, I've made some pretty silly films like Samiro Shairu Bahir. That's that's a pretty. Yeah, that was just a fun, light, silly film.
Anything with that trio.
Yeah.
They were fun. What trio? Who's in it?
So I basically started their careers. I produced their first 3 films, and they were really fun films. They were nice films.
I watched those too. Nir and I are not very well versed in the Egyptian cinema.
I've seen,
Need to get back
I've seen
into
a
it.
couple of. I watch Arabic movies. I find that sometimes there's this one movie I saw that was really funny, but I couldn't remember.
I used to be.
It was a kid. It's Egyptian movie. It was a kid that was from a well-to-do family, and the father lost everything, so he had to go from a private school to a public school.
La Mu'akhza, yeah.
La Mu'akhza. So a lot of those it was funny because he's learning these very
You saw that?
Egyptian. I did see it.
Yeah.
These very Egyptian jokes, but the jokes fell short. I didn't get the gist of some of the very Egyptian lingo.
But that film, for example, played so well in some international film festivals. I remember we played it in several in the US and London Film Festival. It played so well in all. It's amazing how people could relate to.
But it was fun. You related to. You understood it. It was.
And it also did really well in theaters. I mean, it was in theaters for 12 weeks. It was unexpected success.
I saw that movie at the same time as I saw this other movie about, what was it, Working Girl? This bint shot from Mosna? There.
Fatat al-Masna.
Right? And that one, I understood that one a lot better than the other one.
Oh.
But I thought it was a very good movie, actually. Just,
That's another movie that was blocked in censorship for 1.5 years.
why?
They thought it would incite inter-religious tensions.
Oh, wow. I didn't even notice that at all when I was watching it. The whole time I'm watching it, it's stuff you don't notice as somebody who watches movies that are usually not censored. It's interesting. Actually,
I don't have any.
How about
idea.
you? What do you tell me a little bit about your? Yeah, you're doing something creative as well, right? Design and.
Yes, I do design.
Okay, I mean, do you feel like I have a question for you? Honestly, do you feel like people's tastes have changed to the worse? Is there a new class of new money that is kind of taking over and is?
Yes, the problem I find is that. Because me as an interior designer, if I take on a project, I'm not very good at expressing myself because we said this about it a lot of times. I'm not very good at communication. But for me, it's like I have the whole vision in my head.
Yeah.
But people now, because people are more exposed, but they think that they have taste. And that's it's like that, what's that saying? Like, don't argue with a stupid person because they'll win with it.
Yeah.
They'll always win.
Yeah.
But yeah, it becomes a bit like that. But now with time, I kind of pick my clients because I need to have somebody that knows, that kind of gives me that creative leeway. Because if somebody micromanages you too much, it kills that creativity, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And most people, if you can do it yourself, you can design yourself, then you won't need an interior designer.
Yeah.
But I think the taste has gotten worse. The quality has gotten worse.
When it comes to desserts, everybody thinks that they're a chef now, which drives me. Oh yeah. They're like, Mira, I'm like, yes. What? I'm sure, because there's so many things online now that people just make that as like, oh, I know. And you get comments, and I'm like, did you go to school for this, or did you not go for school for this?
You did go to school for culinary.
I went for a year. Yeah. So it helps me.
Also, with you in the food business, there's a lot of this now. A lot of people want to be healthy. People are like, they're like jumping from one thing to the other. They want to be healthy, but they want to have they don't want the healthy snack. They want the
That's me. I'm more the fads, like the pistachio craze. I'm like, are you gonna do anything with pistachio? I'm like, no, I will not do anything with pistachio.
Near's the soup Nazi from Seinfeld.
You don't like pistachio?
It's not that I don't like it. It's I don't.
She doesn't like to get on the trends.
What do you think of this new Dubai pistachio chocolate?
I think it's horrible. I think it's delicious, but I think, and we were just in Cyprus and we got one, and the Lind Dubai style, it's like, where is the pistachio and where's the kunefa? It's like all chocolate, it's super sweet. Whereas when we were in Cyprus, we found one that was thick and it was all kunefa. That is delicious. That is really, really good.
You know what I don't like about the trends? I'll tell you that I think, and maybe you feel that too in the film industry. People, when something works well, everybody wants to copy it, right? So like, let's say if you're doing a movie and it's good, everybody wants to do the same thing, or like you feel like there's a lot of imitating here. Here especially, I find. We had that in the Four Fat Ladies, we were in the food thing. All the time, and then they tell you, the people that are working with you, like your partners, that this is doing well, to do that. I feel like it's not. We don't need to. We can leave room for people to do their own thing, and we can be innovative more than just copying something.
I'm the way I see it is, if I make brownies really well, I'm going to continue making brownies really well because nobody else can do it the way I do it. Let's say. So it's more about, I find that if you're doing something that's really well, there's no reason to go with the fad, with the trends. You know what I'm saying? Like the Lotus, it was a Nutella trend, then it was a Lotus trend, then it's a pistachio trend. They are trends for a reason, and that's why they're called trends. But sometimes, and lately I've been going back to older desserts. So I started doing the pavlova, and that's, for some odd reason, is getting super nostalgic. I realized that it's a trend that's taken on outside of Egypt as well. But I feel like it taps into the nostalgia of the dessert, where people are just like, oh, I remember when I used to eat this from Le Bec Sucré 30 years ago, and they stopped making it. And so, and it's a dessert that appeals to all generations almost. But if you
don't know it. Why do I not know it?
It's a meringue with whipped cream and fruits, basically.
Is it originally like Eastern European?
No, it's originally it's an Australian, it's a New Zealand dessert, but it was named after the ballerina Katerina Pavlova, who's Russian.
Right.
So that's why people always like, it's a Russian dessert. I'm like, it is not a Russian dessert. It is Australian, New Zealand dessert
named after a Russian
ballerina.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I believe like if you're good at one thing, then you should stick to that one thing. It's like directors, you know what I'm saying? When you look at, I don't know, for me, I've noticed that like Quentin Tarantino he has his style. You know his style. He's very good at his style, whether it's the writing or the producer or director.
Yeah, I agree with you, but especially when you're in some kind of manufacturing business. But for art, yes, it's good to have a niche, but again, I'll go back to Stanley Kubrick, who excelled at every single genre. He reached the very top end of every single genre, from anti-war films to science fiction to horror to comedy. Like every film he made in that genre, it was just perfect. Almost every film. So But then again, when you look at manufacturing today, for example, I was reading about the company in Taiwan that makes all the microprocessors and the chips for for all microprocessors and computers and phones and cars and the reason why they became one of the top companies in the world is that basically they just did one thing and they're going to try to compete with the people that they're working with by growing vertically or integrating beyond their specialty. And I think that when you do something so well, like you said, and you just grow in that, I think you have a huge advantage.
Yeah, I totally agree. About the Stanley Kubrick thing, though.
Yeah.
He excelled in every genre, yes. But in all of his movies, there's always an underlying message about society. Most of his.
Yes.
But not all movies, I find not all directors, like that's where he's brilliant. You know what I'm saying? There's always a very subtle message.
Well, that's what differentiates a director from an auteur, right? An auteur has recurring themes and ideas that evolve throughout their work, and the great auteurs, they have these links in their work. And I think yes, that Stanley Kubrick, despite the fact that he tried so many different genres, but like you said, yes, I mean he always had an underlying commentary, about society, told in different ways.
That's what I always notice about it. There's always that. You haven't seen any of his movies.
Yeah, true.
No, I think I have, because I don't remember them now off the top of my head.
Clockwork Orange is one of his most famous.
Oh, yeah.
The Shining.
Of course.
He did
Eyes
Odyssey.
Wide Shut.
Yes.
Lolita.
Did he do Space Odyssey?
2001 Space Odyssey. He did Spartacus. He did all these great films.
Would you do? Okay, my last question. Would you do an English movie?
I mean, I have that before.
Have you?
Yeah, more than once. But and I think I will do more English language just because it's a bigger market. But I don't want to move to Hollywood and be an American producer. I want to do films that somehow I feel I can add value to. And I think in my position here as an Arab producer, knowing the local talents and knowing the landscape and the culture, that is my edge, even if I work in an international market. So I don't want to give that up to go do films in the West, Yanni.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I did an English language film set and shot in Egypt, which was very, very independent, and was released in U.S., England, and France, and some other territories. It was in Sundance. It was
What's it called?
Luxor.
Luxor. Yeah. Oh, I've heard of that one. Yes.
Yeah.
What's it called?
Luxor.
Okay.
So co-produced a couple of British films, but again, it's like these are. There's always something Arab about, some Arab component. It was either the director or the setting or, one of the talents. If I can, it's always related to this part of the world somehow.
You had something to do with Malcolm X, didn't you?
No. I mean, it was shot in.
It was shot here,
Cairo.
right?
I think there was some. I know.
You
one
were.
or two people.
You and friends were extras or something?
No,
in it?
Sharif Al-Kacha.
Okay, but there was also Esser and that.
Yeah.
Right?
I think there were extras. Yeah, there was a few friends that were extras in the film.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
It's funny.
Yeah.
We had a professor in CSC that loved being extras in all the movies that were shot in Egypt.
There weren't that many movies shot in Egypt.
No, there was Ruby Cairo, there was Malcolm X. There's quite a few, actually, much more than you think.
Not anymore, right?
Probably not anymore.
Movies being...
Last year there was quite a few. I mean, you see the Guy Ritchie one on just launched on Apple, Fountain of Youth.
Oh, it was shot here?
Yeah, so a big portion of it was shot here. Miramax showed a film that was shot here last year. There's a few. I mean, now I think the country's opening up a little bit to foreign productions.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Finally, it's just ridiculous that they didn't before.
That's right. I mean, I did 2 episodes of Rami in Cairo, so I worked with them in the first season.
Okay, cool.
They shot 2 episodes here, and my company was the local company for that. But I worked on some Bollywood films and production servicing and stuff like that. Yeah.
Bollywood is a huge industry.
With the dancing.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, anyways, is there anything else you want to ask?
I asked plenty.
No?
You didn't ask anything?
Okay, well, thanks for being on our podcast.
Thanks for being here.
Very happy to have you.
I'm very happy to be here.
And if anybody has any questions for Hefzy, they can DM us and we can see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Okay, that's a wrap. If you're still here, you must have enjoyed yourself, so subscribe and leave a review and share this with the one person who needs to hear it. Find us on Instagram for behind the scenes on what's coming next. See you next time, same place, same chaos.